15 minutes late. That's okay. Let's see, YouTube playlist. We'll go to ArtStation. We'll load up streaming. Let's go to Pixelogic's page here. There we go. Okay. Got everything I need. We'll go to videos. ZBrush Summit day 1, 2, 3. Okay. Whew. Sorry. I got to the end and couldn't find my tablet. I got everything set up and then I remembered, oh yeah, I packed my tablet to go to ZBrush Summit and it's in my bag and then I couldn't find the cord. So anyway, I'm all set up here. Let's do this. Let's see, YouTube here. So on my YouTube channel, if you want to follow along, well, we're not really, I don't think we're doing anything that we're going to follow along with, but here's some YouTube videos that you can go check out for, you know, intro to ZBrush stuff. If you're new to ZBrush, I'll go ahead and put this in the channel. Also, on my ArtStation page here, so we have this goblin thing that we did with Character Creator, and then we made the big troll guy. I'm going to go ahead, I've set up the goblin. Let's go ahead and open up some files, if I can find them real quick. So we have recording, Character Creator. So we got a goblin, 3D print, pieces, render. Sorry, these are kind of, let's see what this has in it. Oh yeah, so these are all the pieces laid out. So for example, let's go ahead and watch the video real quick. Why not? So we'll go here to videos here. So just as a quick overview of how we got here. Go and turn that off. So, started out with the CC character topology. So I just got back from ZBrush Summit and we did a workshop on, you know, how to go back and forth from ZBrush to Character Creator and make your own character and stuff. And we can actually, maybe just as a refresher, I'll do that this morning, just for fun. But anyway, we have a goblin that we sculpted and created. Then we can, of course, rig and animate it in Character Creator. Then we did all the gear and sent that over. And then was using that and Pose Tools, this is the Pose Tools plugin, to send stuff back and forth. Let me just skip ahead here real quick. There we go. So use Pose Tools to, you know, drop in some animation, send this back over to ZBrush, use Pose Tools to snap our high-res into the pose that we want, in this case a little climbing goblin guy, and then we would add, split it up and put in little registrations and printed it out. So I'm going to do the exact same thing for the giant, and I think I've got a file that has the goblin and the giant in it. Okay, that would be under the, I'm sorry, I'm not ready today. Okay, gear for print posed. I think this might be it. So here's the goblin pieces. You know, all kind of split up, and then like the shoulder pad here will go right into the arm there, for example, and there's a backpack and stuff. So all of this stuff is Boolean together so that it can be combined. Hey, good morning, John. Good morning, Steamworks. I hope I have everybody on Restream. I got on Restream and I had to turn off some channels, so I think I got the ones I'm supposed to be on. Everybody cross their fingers for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and load in the giant. So troll gear for print posed. Let's see what's in this file. Yes, okay. Thank God. I have a file in here that's ready to be prepped. Okay, good. So here's the goblin. He's about the size of my palm when I print him out, which means I'm gonna need a large format printer to print out this guy unless I want to slice him up a lot. He's gonna be, I don't know, maybe 1.5 feet tall. Maybe, I'm not sure exactly how tall, but yeah, we'll go ahead and get him prepped, I think. So we'll start there maybe, and of course if I go off on any tangents or you all want to talk about something else, please let me know and we can pivot, because I don't really have an agenda for it this morning. I am not prepared, as you can probably tell by now. Yeah, hey Amir. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, Everybody was so nice. Yeah, I did go to the ZBrush Summit, and everybody was so nice. They're like, "Oh, we learned a lot of ZBrush from you." I'm like, "Oh, that's so good to hear. I'm glad the videos are helping y'all." So, you know, you never really know. It's nice to hear that in person too. So that was awesome. But yeah, I did go to the summit. I haven't watched all of it yet. Of course, I had to get back, and you know, so this is the time when I'm going to go through. And you know, here's the ZBrush. So here, I'll go ahead and link y'all to this. Here's the videos for ZBrush. You can go through and catch up on the summit here. So here's day 1, part 1, day 1, part 2, day 2, part 1, part 2, and then summit day 3. Wow. Okay, so 5, 6, 7. So about 8 hours worth of content for every day of the summit. So whew, I'm gonna need to take a lot of notes. Like I said, I've caught the beginning of some of those and then the tail end of others. So haven't had a real comprehensive list. And that was the other thing too, whenever everybody's like, "Oh, we learned so much from you," it's like, well, you know, my job, quote unquote, and it's not my job, but you know, it's what I do for fun for my YouTube channel. But going through and, you know, being on a beta or reading documentation and then making a video out of it, that's not tremendously difficult. But the real magic happens when you see these professionals in the industry, you know, using ZBrush 9 to 5 for all the cool creative stuff that they do and all the really elegant solutions they come up with to create things with a cool set of tools that ZBrush puts in your tool belt. So I'm super excited. I always learn a ton from every ZBrush Summit. Well, and I say learn, but I write down a lot of notes from every ZBrush Summit, and then I retain 5% of it, and then I try to go back and pick up everything. But of course, my brain can only fit so much. So, their way to adjust brush settings faster. Clicking the button and moving the slider each time doesn't seem ideal. Yeah. So we want to adjust some brush settings. So over here we got our brush. So we have on the left hand side we have this little docking area, this little divider. You can double click these arrows and then it'll open up this left side. And I think by default maybe your brushes will be over here. If not, you can just say, hey, take any menu you want and then just drag this over. So, but as far as the question goes, oh, thanks, Shleem. Yeah, he was another fun one. And it's, you know, speaking of how this one was created too, is the exact same way, which was we made the goblin and of course printed it out. And then, okay, so we got through the whole goblin part and I was like, okay, let's take the goblin and then back in Character Creator, we'll make a quick variant because all of our high res, high frequency detail in ZBrush is still sitting there. So we went to the Character Creator, changed the sub D1, you know, his big volumes, you know, sculpted him from sub D1 to sub D3, let's say, to make him more muscular. I don't know, he kind of looks a little British to me for some reason, to make him into this character, but he still retained all of the goblin skin details. And then of course send him back over and he's got the goblin paint, and then you exported this to Painter through Substance, through Character Creator. Of course, open the mouse so that we wouldn't get baking errors, and then change his paint, and then back in Character Creator, of course, painted up all his accessories and stuff, of course, too. Threw this all back into Character Creator, hit the button to update, and again, this is all stuff we covered in the workshop. That workshop was awesome too. I thank everybody for showing up for the workshop. I'm going to have some files I'm going to send Paul so you can download them. The workshop files that you guys didn't have access to. But yeah, and so then we got to this part here, and then of course you can swap the accessories out and go through and do super stylized stuff. So a lot of really, really fun stuff you can do with Character Creator and ZBrush. And then of course you can export that out and render it in Redshift, Octane, Marmoset, anything you want to. And then of course stylized stuff, which we haven't gotten into yet, but there's so many cool things you can do. Anyway, tangent. We were asked about way to adjust brush setting faster. I guess it kind of depends. Yeah, that's a good question, because when I have a brush, let's say, so I got my standard brush here, and I want to make the brush bigger. Let's go ahead and minimize this. Sorry. You know, I'll tap S on my keyboard so that my draw size is here. You can hit or hold down spacebar on your keyboard, and then you have a bunch of really fast ways to kind of access a bunch of brush settings, and not just brush settings, but also edit a lot of stuff. I don't use this menu, but there's a lot of cool stuff in here. But generally speaking, just S is for my brush settings. And then to your point, like, yeah, if I want to change my auto masking topological, change my range down to 1.5, or I usually do that on my move brush, which I have assigned to a hotkey. I'm trying to think of whatever else I would come in here for. Smooth brush modifiers, I don't really. So here's a thing, something to consider. If you're constantly like for me, if I'm constantly opening up ZBrush and the first thing I'm going to do is say, okay, go into my brush settings and then hold down Shift to go to my smooth brush and change my weighted smooth mode down here to 1, which is smooth stronger. That's my default smooth that I like, but of course ZBrush ships with weighted smooth mode set to 0. So instead of doing that every time I start up ZBrush, just hold down Shift, change your brush. It doesn't have to be this. It could be your standard brush, or for example, my clay tubes brush. The settings in here, for example, the stroke modifiers, roll distance is set to 5, and there may be some other settings that have been changed. This is actually from Magdalena's. She did a ZBrush Masters. So look that up on YouTube. She has some brushes. So if I hit my comma key, go to my brush menu. So let's talk about where brushes are stored. This may not be answering your question, but other people may find this interesting or useful. So if I go in here to wherever ZBrush is installed on your machine, so C, Program Files, Max and ZBrush 2023 in this case, ZBrushes, this is where your lightbox is. So you're going to see all these underscore folders. These are just brushes I bought or downloaded over the years and kind of put them in here. So for example, in the Magdalena brushes, there's a clay tubes brush. So I always use this clay tubes as my clay tubes, but this is not ZBrush's default clay tubes. Same thing as the smooth brush. Smooth brush by default doesn't have weighted smooth mode set to 1. So instead of every time I start up ZBrush, I'm going to go in here to brush, hold down Shift and change weighted smooth mode, or go in here to my light box and then go to underscore Magdalena brushes and then double click clay tubes to use that one. What I'll do, and you got to be a little bit careful, hold down Shift, for example, change weighted smooth mode to 1, go, and while Shift is held down, say brush, save as, go in here to, back in here to the exact same folder we're in, which is again C, Program Files, Max on ZBrush, and in this one, go to Z Startup, Brush Presets. Oh, I'm sorry, not Z, I don't want to confuse things. Don't go there. Go to, where is it? Z Data, sorry. Go to Z Data, and there's a brush presets folder in here. First thing you want to do is select this, copy, and then paste it. Just because if you mess up anything in this brush presets folder in the data folder, you're gonna have to, reinstall ZBrush to get them back. But if you copy this folder out, you'll always have a backup of these are all the default brushes that ZBrush brings in. So in that case, we're gonna go back to brush presets, and again, we've held down Shift and save as. So I'm gonna save over, in this case, my smooth brush right here. So that's going to save over the default brushes, so I don't have to constantly go in there and change settings. And then same thing with the Magdalena clay tubes. I would go and grab that clay tubes and then say, with the clay tube selected, you don't have to hold Shift because that's the modifier to go to our smooth brush, but just brush save as, and then you would save that into that Z Data ZBrush presets folder. And then every time you start up ZBrush, that'll be when you switch to clay tubes, which is this button on my keyboard for this, or if I go back or hold down Shift to go to my smooth brush, it'll automatically, restart ZBrush obviously, and then you don't have to go in and then change as many settings, so it'll just be set up to the defaults that you enjoy and you like. Seemed like there's something else I wanted to talk about with that. The other brush presets folder. So when we were in here and we did save as, I went to the wrong one, but it's not really the wrong one. It's just another option for you. So if you go in here to ZBrushes, again, this is all your lightbox stuff, right? If you go in here to Z Startup, brush presets, this is going to be an empty folder. Any brushes you save in here will load up as an extra brush. So if you hit B on your keyboard, you're going to see down here, I've got like a Move Acu and an IMM Base Primitives, Damn Standard 02. These are brushes that aren't being loaded as a default, just kind of coming in as a little bit extra, and then you can assign hotkeys to them. But that's how to set up your brushes in kind of a bespoke way. But as far as like you said, changing settings, what you could do is well, you're still gonna have to. So you can see I have this little custom menu, this little Pav custom menu up here, and if you hold down Control Alt and tap, you can say press the key combination. I have it set to Alt A. So whenever I hit Alt A, oops, that was Pav. Pav custom, Control Alt tap, Alt A. Okay, there we go. So whenever I hit Alt A, it's like a little marking menu. So if there are brush settings you need to have access to quickly, you know, you don't have to go in here to your brushes. For example, I have backface masking right here. So instead of having to go into, if I'm in my clay buildup brush or clay tubes, I don't have to go in here to auto masking, turn on backface mask. I have it sitting, well, number one, you can have it sitting here in your interface. If you want more info on that, go to my playlist. And then in here, into the intro to ZBrush, I'll copy it into the chat here. If you scroll down to come on, custom, there we go. Oh, there we go. Creating and saving custom brushes. Everything I just said is in this video. Also, creating your own custom interface and menus to speed up your workflow. It's right here in this video 42. So if you want to put buttons in your interface that are quick to access. Also, the backface masking here, I have that set to a hotkey, Alt F. So when I'm in clay tubes, all I got to do is hit Alt F and it'll turn on backface masking. The reason I have it in my interface is so I can have a visual representation of if it's off or on any brush, because it's going to be set on a per brush standard. So if I go to my H polish brush, I can turn it on. I can go to my standard brush, I can turn it on. I can go back to my H polish brush, it's still on. So you can sorry, long-winded response that isn't really answering your question, but I'm just giving people alternatives to say, hey, if you want brush settings assigned to hotkeys, you can totally do that. If you want brush settings in your interface, if it's faster to access, you can do that. You can make your own custom menu with brush settings in it that you can access a little bit faster. Again, you can hit S on your keyboard to get brush size, space bar to get access to some brush settings. But yeah, I don't know if there's a real easy way to adjust brush settings faster outside of that. Okay, so getting kind of here. Oh, thank you, Scroll. Glad the videos are helping out. Just like everybody else, I'm glad the videos help. And when I'm doing my live streams, I'll be a little bit more mindful, because sometimes I get bored explaining. What do I say a lot? I'm always like, when I go into my custom menu, you know, delete hidden, geometry modify to delete hidden, geometry modify close holes, deformation, mirror and weld. Like, these are things I do a lot. And if you're new to ZBrush, you might be talking like I'm going fast, and I'm saying it fast just because I'm bored saying geometry. Where is it? Geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. You know, so instead of digging through here, I'll use my custom menu. I'll try to shout out where it is, but I know if you're just getting started in ZBrush, it's going to be irritating to watch one of my live streams and be like, wait, what? You're going too fast. And meanwhile, I've been doing this for many, many years, and I'm just bored of talking about that functionality. It's good to talk about, and it's useful, but, you know, when you're live streaming, I apologize. Can you transfer high-level details in Character Creator? Yes, kind of. So basically, essentially what we did was we had, actually I can show you real quick. So for example, yeah, let's do that just real fast. Let's open up Character Creator. And you know what? Just for demo purposes, I'm going to say, just so I don't get lost, because I'm having a hard time this morning, we're going to call this let's put that right on my desktop. Boy, I got a lot of stuff in here. Let's hit that R key. Okay. Okay, yeah, we're going to transfer. So, okay, this will be good too. So I haven't opened up this Character Creator troll file in a long time, like the body file. I also haven't opened up the ZBrush version of the body file in a long time. However, if I'm smart, and let's all test this live, if I'm smart or not. You know what I need. I got my ZBrush Summit folder, and that has everything nice and organized. Oh, where did I put that? I'm sorry. I just got back last night, and I am think. ZBrush Summit. This PC. Oh, okay. Recording. That's usually where I throw all my stuff. You know what? You know how I find things? I go to everything. ZBrush Summit deliverables are right on my desktop. Duh. No, don't have it. All right. So anyway, okay. So Goblin. I have a bunch of working files in here for the Goblin, and usually what I'll try to do is have a Z project file and a corresponding character creator file. So if I ever want to go back, and I do have this much nicer in my workshop folder, but so for example, here's my Goblin 2 character creator file. So I'm just going to double click that, and we'll go ahead and load him up, and then I'll open up in ZBrush the corresponding ZBrush Goblin 2 corresponding skin file. And in fact, I have two versions of a skin file. So let's look at those real quick. I have a beat up version. Give me a sec, because this is kind of big file. Wait for it to load. So here's my Goblin body. And he's a little beat up. He's got his little bite marks on him, and he's got little scars on him and stuff like that. Let's say, you know what, these beat up things are a little too bespoke. I just want the skin detail to follow along with. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go back to this file, which is pre-beat up, which is Goblin 2006, apparently. Again, work more organized than I am. My ZBrush Summit Workshop files are all nicely named. So this is a character creator file. While I'm doing some body stuff, what I'll have is like maybe, for example, like a little bit of emaciated reference. I'll go ahead and turn that on, and I'll go to split screen, which again, I have out here in my interface just for fast, easy access, but you will find it in the transform split screen. So while I'm working, I'll go ahead and turn everything else off here. And we'll say, hey, you know, I can go in here and I can use this as good reference for like, you know, rib cage. My guy's a little beefier than this guy. But, you know, these popping shoulder blades and that little hint of the trapezius here. You know, just kind of taking... my guy's got some, you know, back wrinkle and stuff. So he's a little different than this. But it's nice to see, you know, how the spine kind of pops out and stuff. This is from 1024, by the way. Let's see if this even has it still on here. Male body morphs. And we'll go down here to layers. So let's talk about that because y'all might find it interesting. So for that reference, and I'll go ahead and through and let's say delete this. So again, multiple types of reference from scan data just to kind of have it in there. But let's talk about those body morphs real quick. So for example, scan models, scan data, Morphable male base mesh Z tool. There we go. So what I would do is load up this file. Again, my anatomy reference file. And then again, it's in 3D. So while I'm sculpting in 3D, it's moving along with me. It's not a bunch of images I have to look at or anything like that. So we'll select the body here. I don't need the rest of the stuff. So I'll just say delete other. And I don't even need the texture map. So I'll say texture map on, turn this off here. So again, if I go back to layers here, there's a couple in here. So we can go underweight. And in fact, this is a 32 million polygon file because it's got like crazy skin detail on it. If I'm just using, honestly, I'm just using this for, you know, the major features. I mean, not really. I'm using it for all the features except for the pore detail because I'm going to get the pore detail from other scan data, so I'm not going to get it from this. So we'll go ahead and put this back to 0. And to make it a little more performant, what I'll do is go to geometry. You can drop this down to like subdivision level 5, or hell, in my case, even subdivision level 4 is plenty. Hit delete higher, because again, I'm not using it for pore detail, just forms and volumes. So here now we can go underweight, and we can just dial it in. So we can just immediately, you know, kind of suck that in. And then, of course, the opposite. You can go in here and you can go do overweight as well. Just so good overweight reference. So yeah, so there's that. And again, that's from 1024 scan store. Okay, so back to our goblin here. And this is our goblin here that has, and again, you know what? Today we'll go into wrap. Maybe we'll open up wrap, and I'll wrap some scan data to a model. Maybe I'll use my head, my own face, because I was doing that recently. And that's where I got all of this skin detail. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can go and make your own with your own brushes and stuff, but just as a quick fix, the ability to kind of go in there and get all of this really high frequency detail. Is this at the highest? Yeah, this isn't even at the highest, so division level 6. There we go. So yeah, all this high frequency detail. And of course, this is a good starting point, and then you can go in and, you know, smooth it out or make it your own however you need to. I was pretty lazy, so I don't think I cleaned up too much. I think I added a little bit, but that's about it. So here is my base goblin. He's not too beat up, but he's got all the skin detail. So what I did was, okay, we have, back to what we were talking about. We have the goblin here. We have character creator here. We have our, recording, character creator, goblin, variant. Okay, my brain's starting to catch up with me. Gear, textures. So I'm going to open up. We have this file, and I have a corresponding character creator file. If it'll open it, hold on. Just drop in here. Character creator textures. There we go. Give it a second. Okay. Recommend ZWrap. I have a sculpt that's ready for UVs and subspace render. I know the idea of UVs. That's in quad draw. I want to have a game ready model. I have recommendations for plugins for UVs. I do recommend ZWrap. I tend to use, let me see if I can, oh, I have it open already. Yes. I tend to use wrap here, just because I'm kind of used to it and I already have my nodes set up. But ZWrap's also awesome. I have a license for it, but I don't use it as much, but I'll see. I'm going to need to go through. There's some new features in wrap that I need to do because I've been pretty vanilla in here for a long time. But yeah, this is a good way if you have a base topology, like for work, if you're in production and you'll usually have like a character based topology with the UVs you need, that you can just kind of snap the same topology and UVs to different characters just to keep your overhead down and have some compatibility between body types, and it's just really useful to be able to do that. So that's a good reason to do this. Also, you can snap scan data to mesh, and then you can transfer that high frequency detail, which we may get into today. So here is my CC body file and the corresponding CC ZBrush file. So I need to relink these back up. I'm going to go in here to Preferences, GoZ, and we're going to say Clear Cache Files. And then we're going to go back into Character Creator, and everything's pretty ready to go. So all I need to do, hold on, yes, and then send it over. Okay. Yeah, we should be good. Make sure everything's named okay. Here's all of our CC files that we sent over originally. Then we sculpted it up to high res. I can send this back to Character Creator. And I just need to make sure I'm relinked. So this is where I need to go over here to GoZ all. So if you hit GoZ, it's just going to send over what you have selected. If you hit visible, obviously it's going to send over what's visible. If you say all, you know, goes without saying. It's going to send everything over. It'll say update. I'm not really updating anything, but this is just a way to link. We'll say current pose. Everything's set to update. Great. We'll hit update. So now after this, and I am going to be recording, hopefully this week, this whole process. Everything I had just showed you really quickly and everything I'm talking about now, I'm going to have a nice video you can go and watch linearly that'll take you through it. But anyway, we have these things linked. So the next step I would do, like you were saying, transferring detail to another body type, you can do that through wrap, or if you want to use Character Creator, you can modify this existing character into another character like I did for my troll. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go into a couple of different ways. There is our character here. We got it selected. We can go in here to morphs, and we have a whole bunch of morphs we can morph to and from. So for example, if I want to just do an overall body morph, make it more muscular or whatever, we can say, hey, Kevin body. We can just dial that in, and that will go through and morph the body shape, you know. You can also go bit by bit. So for example, if we want to go in here to the head only, there's a bunch of head presets, and you know, if we want to make his face heavier, we can just face heavier. You can double click face heavy. That'll go from -100 to 0 to 100. So that'll just kind of go through the defaults. And the opposite here, so face thin, we can use these morphs to go face thinner. And also you'll notice we have a lot of options in here. You can also hit this morph button, and then you can just go and roll over, and you can just click and drag. So if you want to go through, you know, make his head bigger, make his head smaller. That's what I did for the troll, and then his neck's a little bit long, but you can make his neck even longer if you want to. Let's go crazy. Let's make a really bizarre proportion thing. Make his legs longer here. And overall scale too. So we can go back to the body here and say, we can search scale here, so you can, you know, scale the character bigger, and obviously, like, you know, scale the shoulders, or again, you can just grab the morph and scale what you need to. So this is kind of where I started, just kind of thicken him up, go through here and change his proportions. Awesome, thank you. And if you can't quite get anything where it's like, well, I want to make his butt bigger, but it's not really making the shape I want, remember, you can do all that in ZBrush. So don't fret too much if you can't get exactly what you want in a character creator. We're just dialing in kind of what we need, and then we can go back into ZBrush and make it whatever, and then send those changes back to character creator. So very fluid, very cool. Very fluid, very cool. So we've linked ZBrush to character creator. So I'm going to select all these. We're going to go the Z all this back. And it's going to say relink. I have split out previously the eyelash and the tear ducts. We're going to say current pose, hit GoZ. And again, this is the lowest res. When I GoZ'd over from ZBrush, it sent the lowest res version. It didn't send my 30 million polygon version, right? So here is the new character creator that we have here. And then, like I said, we have all of our high frequency detail following right along. So we can go back up in our subdivision history, and we have all of our detail back. We just have a lot of really weird proportions. So all I did was on subdivision level 1, turn on X symmetry here, and then go through and modify it. So we'll make him, and again, this is where, you know, get your scan data reference, or, you know, pull up your reference for different body types and stuff, and you can go through and, you know, we'll use like inflate. And just, you know, inflate these legs here, thicken him up a little bit, inflate his arms with the inflate brush, inflate his, what are these, forearms? Make any changes you want to the head. Now, if you're going to make any proportional changes, when we send it back over, there will be an option for update my bones along with my mesh. So if in ZBrush, if you wanted to, go in here with your lasso and then invert this and then say, hey, I want to pull this arm out and scale it up. Of course, you want to turn on dynamic, else I'm turned on. Scale up the hands. I can totally do that in ZBrush, send it back over, and it will move the bones into place along with my mesh. I'm a little nervous to do that, so if I ever really want to make huge proportional changes, what I'll do is I'll GoZ back to character creator, make my proportional changes in there because I know the bones are going along with the morphs, bring it back to ZBrush, and then in ZBrush I'll do, you know, stuff that is just gonna update the secondary forms basically. So yeah, so let's go ahead and change these ears a little bit here. Like I said, we can, and the ears I'm not too worried about making proportional changes because there's no bones in the ears. You can put bones in the ears. I haven't done it, but I've seen it done. And I'm not sure exactly how that works, so I'm gonna not go too heavy into that, obviously. So I've masked, you can see I control tapped to blur that mask a little bit. That's going to be under your tool masking settings. You can go through here and you can say blur or sharpen or clear. And in fact, if you want more geometry while you're masking, let's go to subdivision level 2. That'll give us more geo. And then we'll have a little bit of more data for our mask to pick up on if you need that. And then, like I said, the hotkeys for all of that masking stuff, you can control tap in here, and that'll blur the mask. You can control alt tap, that'll sharpen the mask. You can control tap in your document to invert your mask. You can, what else can you do? Blur, sharpen, grow, and boost and shrink. I don't think they have hotkeys for it, but you can go in here. So, and then control drag to clear your mask. So that's the hotkeys functionality-ish in ZBrush. So again, we're going to mask this ear area here. We're going to control tap to blur it, control tap to invert the mask, hit W, move my gizmo into place. And again, if we don't have LSIM turned on, it's going to want to scale away and toward the world axis in the middle of your scene. But turn on LSIM, turn off dynamic. Dynamic is a way for the gizmo to be your arbitrary work plane. If you want to know more about that, actually, that's a good point. If you want to know more about that, I have a video on it that is outdated because right when I made this, a couple days after I made this video, they included that dynamic button, which is awesome. So I have a dynamic symmetry video in here, but it's not going to have that dynamic button. So basically LSIM on, which is local symmetry across this unmasked area, for example, and then dynamic off because we're not going to use the gizmo as the X and Y and Z axis. So now we can scale the ears up and down. So we'll go ahead and scale them down a bit and maybe rotate them back and then go in here with our move brush and we'll just kind of change this stuff. So this is where up to subdivision level maybe 3, I'll use my sculpting brushes to change his body type. But I still have all of that super high frequency skin detail following along, so I still get, I don't have to go back and wrap and project that detail. I can just have it available to me. So that's how I did the troll, give or take. Let me get some coffee real quick. Yes, brush settings, and then high level details and character creator. So that's how I did it for this stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, so there's a lot of really cool stuff in not only the smooth brush modifiers. Again, hold down shift and change the weighted smooth mode while you're painting, like if you're poly painting and stuff. And this one actually has the scan data poly paint along with it. So whatever I used for scan data, I can also use as a starting point to bake out and have all of this, you know, skin detail baked in, and then I can use that again as a starting point in Substance Painter or whatever, or even in here to just kind of poly paint on. If I want, in fact, in ZBrush on this poly paint, you can say, so for example, on poly paint, if I had it loaded as a texture from 1024, I can say poly paint from texture. It would be loaded in here. That would transfer the texture data to my poly paint, and this is just what poly paint is we have, in this case, 13 million polygons, vert points, and every one of those verts is a position in space that makes up your character and the shape of it, and then also RGB information. So you can literally paint RGB information on those polygons, and that's very, very powerful to kind of toss data back and forth. So we were talking about this and poly paint, and then also you can go in here to poly. So you can, if you have a texture map, you can say texture map. Oh, maybe it's up here. Texture adjust colors. You also have a poly paint adjust colors. So if you've poly painted something, you can still go in here and you can say, you know what, I want him to look a little more goblin-y, and we'll just hue shift him over. Or this is what I did on my, so okay, this is also what I did on my, let's do this. Nope. This is my channel. Where is... I think that's how you spell it. There we go. Yeah, so the making of. So very similar is I started out with just a arbitrary... oh, and this is with the crew. Oh, oh no. Hold on. Oh, okay, I got it here. Stylus League. So this is with Stylus League. We went through. So check out, I'll copy here. Here's the Stylus League channel. Oops. Can I? Oops. Sorry, I forgot to send something apparently. Yes, so the Stylus League channel, we go through and we sculpt some. A long time ago, we went through and we sculpted this thing just for fun, and then I had this turtle sculpt, and then I went through on his body and just wrapped, and this was even posed. So I went and posed. This was before Character Creator. I just posed it manually, and then went through and transferred scan data to my Ninja Turtle guy, and then again went in here and changed the hue on the poly paint. Went through and added some tiling reptile skin, masked it so it only affected parts of his body, masked by cavity, went and did some poly paint on top of it. Threw that in the Substance Painter, so you can use poly paint and masking and Substance Painter and all the cool Substance Painter things you can do, and then throw all of that in the Marmoset, and you'll have, you know, very high frequency, detailed skin and stuff on your Michelangelo character. I think I have it, yeah, here. And I guess I don't get too close, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, frequency, detailed, transfer, yes, doable. Okay, so yeah, so yes, I use ZWrap. Yes, use wrap. It's totally cool. And as far as retopologizing, yeah, Quadra. Maya has there's Topo Gun, and then Maya has like Quadra, and then ZBrush has a bunch of topology tools as well, which is on my website. Like ZModeler has some topology stuff built in. Z-Spheres have topology tools built in. Max Maya Model Blender, Cinema 4D all have topology options. So however you want to do that, and then UVs. When I'm doing organic UVs like this texture. Let's do this. I'll show you his UVs real quick. We'll drop down to subdivision, subdivision level 1. And underneath your UV map, we can say morph UV. And in fact, let's unmorph and let's turn bump down to 0. Okay, oh yeah, and these are UDIMs. Let's talk about UDIMs. Let's unmorph real quick. I'm gonna do, you see I only have one polygroup. I'm gonna go here to polygroups and I'm gonna say auto groups with UV. So all of my UV groups have their own UV map, and then for example I can say morph my UVs now, and then again these are all they're UDIMs, so they're kind of stacked on top of each other. Let's go into solo mode. But if I'm going to do actually this one doesn't, these are all just nicely laid out. Usually when I'm doing organic stuff I'll use a plugin, and that's not really a plugin, it's standalone, but you can also plug into any other program. A program called Hedis UV Layout. I'll use that because that has a really nice way to go through, and you can tap S and then double tap S and it'll straighten those lines out, and then you can relax in between your straighten UVs. You can do that, of course, in any other program. Rhizome, like I said, Max Maya Model Blender, Cinema 4D. It's just, I've been using it for so long, it's just nice for me to use. So, so for organic stuff, I'll use Hedis. Sometimes for hard surface stuff too. Yeah, I don't use plugins usually, but anything you want to do for UVs is everything in 2023. I can't think of anything really that's like, oh my god, you have to use this topology program, you have to use this UV program. And it's kind of the same thing for, like, I don't know, box modeling and stuff too. If like, what's the best program to extrude a face? They're all pretty good. You hit a face and you say extrude and then it extrudes. I don't get too caught up in religious arguments over that stuff, but other people in here may have different opinions. ZWrap is a substitute for traditional retopology. ZWrap is a way for you to transfer existing topology to something arbitrary, just to save you time. So you don't have to, so you can have matching topology, which is really useful. But yeah, you don't. If I'm just going to have a character and it's just a human, then yeah, I'll just use the same topology. I won't overthink it. Make a character with one eye, rig the character in Character Creator, or Dragon. You probably won't learn that stuff from me anytime soon, but yes, you can. Number one is if you want to get the easy access to all of the functionality we have. For example, in Character Creator, we have this, and we've changed the proportions right, and we've gone through and we've made sculptural changes in ZBrush, I think. So whatever changes we made in ZBrush, we can send back over to Character Creator. So we got all this showing. We're going to say, again, GoZ All. And then that'll go in here. And then this is where the adjust bones to fit morph is. I didn't really move anything that was going to... So like the ears, for example, don't have bones in them, so I'm not worried about it. So we'll say update, current pose. So all the ZBrush changes we made will update on this character. And because we're using their CC-based topology, I get for free facial animation, already weighted body here. So if I go in here to motion, and we'll do a walk here. So this is all the stuff I get to inherit for free because I'm using the CC-based topology. Also, if we go in here to wrinkle check, dramatic male. Same thing for the face. I get facial animation for free. Now, having said that, if I go in here to content, you're going to see there's a coyote and there's a T-Rex. This is not using the CC-based topology. Obviously, it's a T-Rex, right? However, you can just use Character Creator as an organizational system to make your own shapes, and it's all in here. So, for example, for this face, if I go in here and say, let's go ahead and say motion, pose, a pose, and we'll select our base body here. What was I going to do? There was, oh, motion. So there's edit facial. So this is kind of cool. So for example, because once you, how do I explain this? Well, this is the cool thing you can do. So over here, I can grab this jaw and I can go over here and just like, you know, move the jaw around, you know, furrow the brow, and I'm getting these expression wrinkles built in because, let's go ahead and reset this to 0. If we go back here, again, with our character here, we have expression wrinkles. So this is activated. If I turn this off and I say, hey, wrinkle your forehead, I can't turn the, okay, yeah. So check with expression. So if I say, yeah, I guess I have to turn this on. I can say wrinkle your forehead, and you see these wrinkles that are showing up. Those are not in the geometry. That's actually a normal map being blended in. If you go down here, you can see there's 3 different wrinkle sets. We're gonna get more on my YouTube channel. Smash that like and subscribe button. This one too, I'm actually streaming right now on Pixelogic's channel, so go ahead and subscribe to them. But also back on my YouTube channel, I'm gonna keep updating with more and more Character Creator stuff that'll get into how to do your own bespoke wrinkles. These are all using default wrinkles. And in fact, if we go and look at actor expression wrinkles, you're gonna see you can, let's see, what are we looking at here? 4K, blah, blah, blah. This one, there's realistic generic wrinkles on here, and also realistic and stylized. So you can bring in stylized wrinkles for a stylized character and have it, you know, ripple and pocket and groove. So very nice, precise. So both. You can make your own bespoke wrinkles for stylized. You can make your own bespoke wrinkles for this. We can't get into that today, but eventually. So keep your eyes peeled. So yes, it's all doable. Just how much time and effort you want to put in. Now, if you don't want to put any time and effort, then using the CC-based topology, you just get everything for free. And what I mean by that is if we go back here and again, we select the base body and we say facial profile editor. These are, and we say edit expressions. These are all the shapes that you can edit that come for free if you use a CC-based topology. If you have your own topology, you can go in and just move your face how it needs to be moved for brow, eye blink, left and right, eyelid, left and right, eyeball, blah, blah, blah. All of this stuff, you can go in and you don't have to fill them all out, but all the basic ones are as crazy as you want to get. You can fill all these out, and then you can still use the CC system to animate your character. Anyway, we'll just keep going. So yes, you can make a character creator with one eye, and if you can use the base topology, great. You'll get a lot lots of stuff for free. If you can't, then you'll have to go in and, you know, do all those shapes for your really crazy character. I will say, I've seen people make like peacocks, like mechanical peacocks with the CC based topology. So like you can do crazy stuff with it and still get some pretty decent results. Modified topology to hidden, yes. What changes would you do if you're the CEO of ZBrush for one day? I could do a lot of damage with a hierarchy and a pivot. If you gave me a way to put objects in a hierarchy and then set pivots, I could. There's a lot of really cool stuff you could do that. But that, honestly, there's not much. I'm always blown away. Usually, what ZBrush will do, they'll give me a lot of times, you know, they'll update functionality, and it's like, oh great, oh this is awesome. And then they'll also update functionality sometimes where I'm like, oh, who asked for this? This is a weird thing. And then a year later, I'm like, oh, that weird thing, I can't live without it. Didn't know I needed it. Glad somebody knew I needed it. So I'm usually just along for the ride with ZBrush. They take good care of me as far as me being a creator and just having an awesome tool set to honestly have fun with. I don't have as much fun in other programs as I do in ZBrush. ZBrush is just a fun as hell program to use to create. Other programs are a little more stodgy and a little more very, like, I don't know, it's not as fun. Not to say that other programs aren't awesome and they don't have their uses and stuff, but I'm a ZBrush stan. Y'all know that. Redo ZBrush starter series. I probably should, right? This one's not too old. The intro to ZBrush, this one right here. I need to update this, and I need to update my CGMA class, which I am in the middle of. It just started right when I went to ZBrush Summit. So yeah, I do need to update it. You're right. I need more time in the day. Cool. Excellent. Thank you, Cure. 4321. This plugin is only for ZBrush 2023. I don't think so. If you're talking about the character creator one, I think you can use older versions of ZBrush too. Yeah, Character Creator 4 and ZBrush is what we were talking about. Yes, this is it's Character Creator 4. Sorry about that, everybody. Should have called that out. Oh, and yeah, so that was the other thing too. If you couldn't get the shape you liked, like, oh, we couldn't fill that butt out the way we wanted to. Again, ZBrush is totally fine for that. Just go in here and pop that. You know, however you want to do that. So again, if you can't get it done in Character Creator Morphs, send it over to ZBrush. Do what you need to do. And again, if you're going to change any major proportions, probably do it in Character Creator, but you can also do it in ZBrush. Just make sure you check on move bones to morph geometry or something like that. I hear so many mixed opinions, people saying you can't get game ready UVs on ZBrush. ZBrush doesn't, well, it's true, I suppose, with a caveat. What's a good example? Goblin. Okay, let's say we don't have UVs on this thing. Let's say we go in here and we say UV map, delete UV. Now, if you're doing the character creator ZBrush workflow, don't do this. Don't delete your UVs. Keep them around. You really need them. I would imagine something may go badly for you if you do this. But so right now we have polygroups, but no UVs. So if I go down here to UV map, there's nothing I can do because there's no UVs. So I can make UVs in ZBrush. So we can go in here to Z plugin. There's two ways you can do UVs in ZBrush. So Z plugin, UV master. We can say, so this has subdivision history. We got our high res detail here. So because of that, I need to go in here and say work on clone. It is symmetrical. I do want to use polygroups. I can just hit on wrap, and then I can hit, oh, there we go. And then I can hit flatten, and now I've got my body UV'd. And it used my polygroups to break up the mesh. And then I can hit unflatten. Now, if we go in here to check seams, you can see it put the seam right down the middle of the arm and down the back of the leg. So maybe if I wanted the seams on the inside of the leg, what I can do is say enable control painting, and I can say attract, and then I can go through here and it gives me a poly paint color that I can go, let's turn on RGB and turn off Z-Add for my standard brush, or B to bring up my brush menu, P to bring up my paint menu, A to grab the paintbrush. Go through here and we can paint, hey, attract seams here and attract seams here. Now, am I being very precise? No. So this is where they may be thinking, hey, if you want precise UVs, it's harder to do in ZBrush because you have to go in here and you can do attract and protect. And now with those, I can unwrap and let it do its thing. And then if I turn on check seams, you're going to see the seams are now where I painted. I didn't say exactly what edges to use, but you know, and of course, if you want to change your UVs, you can go in here and you can say flatten. You can modify these UVs however you want. So like I was saying in Hedis, what you can do is you can tap S and then on this vert or UV coordinate here, and then tap S on this one and then double tap on this one, it would straighten those out. And then when I move this anchor, it'll move those straight lines and it'll snap to a grid. That's the cool functionality I like. It's very accessible and easy. However, you can do the same thing in ZBrush on your UVs. This cool thing about ZBrush is that how do I say this? This is just geometry. It's flattened like your UVs would be, but you have access to all the geometry tools and functionality available in ZBrush to modify your UVs. So for example, I'm going to mask these out, Control Tap to invert that. Control Shift, we'll go over here to Clip Curve, and we'll just clip these UVs to a straight line. And then I can go in here and I can say mask. We'll do like a mask by feature open border. That'll mask our open border. And then we can go through here to deformation, polish, and we can just polish our, you can use polish and that'll kind of relax our UVs. So you can, and then once we're done with that, we can say unflatten. And then once we're done with our UVs, we can say copy UVs, and then we can go back to our working file here and we can say paste UVs. And now these UVs have been updated. So now if I go down here to UVs, we have options and we can morph. So there's our new UVs. Now, speaking of UV map, you can go in here to UV map, create, unwrap. We've already unwrapped. However, you can use creased edges in order to go through. So remember how I said in UV Master, oh, I can paint, but I can't select individual edges. Well, now I'm going to say crease seams, and that's going to go through and crease my open borders. And then I can go through here and I can use creasing. So in my ZModeler brush, oh, right. Here's something else I should bring up. Dynamic. When you're working from Character Creator, it's at Character Creator's scale. So if I go through here, that's actually not too bad. On this file, I did some fancy footwork. But if you're in here and you're like, oh, my brush is only going to get to this big, you can change that by going here to Preferences, Draw, and changing your max brush size to very big, or your dynamic brush scale to add a multiplier to it. You can also go in here to Z Plugin. Sorry, everybody. I know this is a lot. Z Plugin Scale Master, and you can set ZBrush Scale Unify. That will make it more compatible with ZBrush's default brushes, and I'll go in here and change your export scale value. And you can also double-click Dynamic to turn it off, and that will allow you to make a nice big brush if your brush is getting capped. However, you need Dynamic on if you want to have consistent IMM, using IMM. So if you zoom in, your IMM doesn't get smaller, and zoom out, your IMM gets bigger. That's not what you want, right? So generally speaking, you want Dynamic on. So that's why it yelled at me when I went into ZModeler brush. ZModeler also likes Dynamic on, so that's not a real great fix depending. But anyway, we're on this model, has updated UVs. We can go through here with our ZModeler brush, hover over an edge, and we can say crease edge. And then we can hold down Alt if you want to uncrease an edge. And then we can let go of Alt and we can go through here and we can crease another path. And you can go through here and you can crease. You can also hover over a point and you can say crease shortest path. So you can crease from this point to this point and it'll just crease between them. So you don't have to go through and select. Or, you know, you can also say crease edge loop partial and it'll just select an whole edge loop. So you can go through and use creasing. Long story short, go through and use creasing to create your UV map borders and then hit unwrap. Whew. Okay, ZBrush. And if you're lost and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Here's my YouTube channel. go in here to my playlists and like ZBrush 2022, what's new? ZBrush 2023, what's new? All of that will have all the new functionality for all of the stuff I've talked about. And on my ArtStation page, if you scroll down, yeah, I guess I'm not logged in. All these ones with the little corner bent down, it's a little bit easier to navigate. Like if you want to look at live stream, like what the hell is this thing? Some sort of smash baseball head? Click on it. It's like, oh, portfolio, and here's a little sizzle video. But then I'll have my live streams in here too. So here's part 1, part 2. You don't have to go to my YouTube playlist, look for the big blue genie, click on it, and then go in here and say, oh, there it is. You know, you don't have to go dig through multiple years of playlists or streams. You can just go to my ArtStation page and find the live streams there. As well as, here's intro to ZBrush, and then what's new 2022, 2021, 2026, blah, blah, blah. So go check those out for new functionality. Yeah, and now as far as like game ready UVs, you know, you can, I will admit that like doing UVs in ZBrush like this, it's totally fine. You can, I showed you, you can do it, but I know a lot of people will be like, no, it's easier, you know, use Rhizome or use Maya, or you gotta use Blender and these 3 plugins in order to do UVs as a professional. Again, the religious argument you get into with people who use 3D programs, and it's like, no, you have to use this program to extrude a face. Really? And I have to use this program to move UVs around? Because they all move UVs around. They're all called UVs. Just move them around. Just settle down. You know what I mean? So whatever you want to use to move your UV coordinates into position, use it. Of course, you'll have leads and you'll have coworkers and you'll have hobbyists yelling at you on forums, explaining to you why you have to go use their method because they're so damn smart and they're the only ones with the answers. But at the end of the day, given enough experience and time, you'll realize that everybody doesn't know what they're talking about, including me. So everything I've said up to this point, take it with a grain of salt. What do I know? I'm just some guy on the internet. So yeah, Hedus UV layout. Headus. You can also sculpt your own molds for facial and body animation and send them to CC. Yes, smash that like and subscribe button on my YouTube channel. We will get into that shortly-ish. Designing mudguard, harsh design stuff like that to make it look good, not boring. Mudguard like on a bike? Let me see. Oh, okay. These are actual things. Oh yeah, like mud flaps? Mud flap kit? If it was what I was thinking of, so for example, so we have a ring, and this is our bike tire, let's say. And I'm going to go through here and say make polymesh 3D, and I'm going to say inflate. So now we have this bike tire, and then I want to do a mud flap guard. You can go through here and you can say, hey, you can duplicate this entire ring off, and then say, oops, Control Shift, we'll grab select rectangle, and we'll grab, you know, these polygons, let's say, and I'll say delete hidden, geometry modify topology, delete geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And then we'll go in here to auto groups. So that's underneath your polygroups menu. There's an auto groups menu. We're going to take this top polygroup, Control Shift tap it, delete hidden. And now we've got our mud guard here. And then we can just go through here and say, you know, Q mesh. Oh, Z modeler brush, BZM, hover over a face, Q mesh, polygroup all. If you don't know how to use Z modeler, look it up on my YouTube channel. We got a lot of videos that cover that. And then now we've got, you know, a mud flap guard that you can use to, you know, do whatever. That's a good start. However, what I would probably end up doing is saying, and again, this is probably not what you're talking about at all, but, you know, slice. You can go through here and you can slice. You know, maybe it's got a little flavor or something. You can go through and like slice the basic shape and isolate. Oh, let's undo that. So we want to keep our bike tire, right? So we'll duplicate this off, and then let's do 2 versions of what we just did. So I'm going to do this version here where we're going to get our nice big read. Let's go ahead and turn on. Where are we positioned here? Sorry, let me get oriented in space here. Turn on my floor here. So we're Y up, Z forward. Hey. And now I have a duplicate here. So now when I hit X to go into X symmetry, which is under transform, tap X, that toggles symmetry on and off, and then you can choose what axis of symmetry you're on. So again, we'll have a starting point for our mud guard here. So we'll say again, geometry modify topology delete hidden, polygroups auto groups, control shift tap, geometry modify topology delete hidden. And now we can go through here and we'll do our slice curve. So for example, yeah, we'll just do this, you know, I'll just do a big old slice curve here to slice to there, and I'll do a big old slice curve here. Again, it's gonna look ugly, but give me a sec. I'm gonna get rid of these points down here, delete hidden, control W to make it all one polygroup, and then ZRemesher, let's do same, adapt to size down to 0, and we'll just get nice new geometry. ZRemesher, of course, is under geometry, ZRemesh, and this is just a way for you to very quickly and easily get new topology. And you can keep hitting like ZRemesh half, make it lower and lower and lower, whatever you want to do. And then again, ZModeler, we'll go ahead and say crease PG, that'll crease our polygroups. We'll hit D for dynamic, that'll turn on dynamic. Here's your crease stuff, we can say crease PG. Here's dynamic, you can turn this on and off. We can say, I like to do it in here, crease level of 2, smooth subdiv of 3, or maybe increase level of 1, smooth subdiv of 2, just to give you a little preview of what it would look like before we subdivide. You can just have dynamic subdivisions here. And then we can use ZModeler if you want to thicken this up. You can Q-mesh this out, and you can pull this out here. So we've got polygroups, we can pull this up, and then now we've got this little mudguard thing. If you want to know more about ZModeler, obviously you know where to go. YouTube channel here. You can just type in ZModeler and that'll bring up. It's giving everything now. Like really, I just want. I mean, everybody has cool ZModeler like Drust and Steven Anderson here. Met both these guys at ZBrush Summit. Totally awesome. So obviously you can learn ZModeler from anybody. If you want to learn it from me, I guess I'll have to go to my playlist here. Intro to ZBrush, new and updated. We'll do a search in here for ZModeler. Control F. There we go. ZModeler, polygon, edge, point, dynamic subdivisions. These videos right here will get you up to date on how to quickly and easily and effectively use ZModeler in your day-to-day modeling needs. Yeah, exactly. And you could make the argument that I've tied my career to ZBrush, but I use everything. I just love ZBrush. But I do understand that like ZBrush can't do everything, and or it can do some stuff, but hey, maybe you have a better time in another program. You know, so yeah, by all means, you use what works for you. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm lost in here. I lost my place. So if I miss any messages, I'm not doing it because I hate you. I just didn't see it. So keep shouting them out. Workflow video for ornamental design with alphas. Kind of. That came out weird. Kind of. So let's see. Because searching in my, oh, there we go. So ZBrush ornate. So I have an ornate lion helmet live stream. This is probably the closest thing. It's a time lapse, so it's not great, but I can show you how I cheat. So let's make this ornate. So right now it's dynamic. These are not real polygons. They're just a preview of what it would look like if I subdivided. Like I said, we have a crease level here. So if I crank this up, you'll get those razor sharp lines, and that looks very CG. So what I like to do is say, you know, crease level of 2, and then if my smooth subdivision level is at 0, it won't smooth at all, and then smooth subdiv of 1, smooth subdiv of 2. If these both match, my crease level and smooth subdiv, this is smooth subdividing. It's like I'm hitting Control D or hitting this divide button twice. Just a preview. It's not real yet. I can turn this off. It's just giving you a preview of what it would look like. However, if my crease level is smaller than my smooth subdiv, essentially what you're telling ZBrush is subdivide with my creases. And again, we creased our polygroups here, so it's keeping those nice and sharp for me, holding those edges. it'll subdivide twice with creases on, and then it'll subdivide one more time with creases off. And that's what's going to give you that nice fall off. So if I do here we'll do smooth subdiv of 4. So here's crease level of 1, and you'll see it gets even, the fall off is even more pronounced because it's subdividing with crease on once and then subdividing 3 more times with crease off, essentially. So if we say crease level of 2, it'll maintain those edges a little longer before it falls off. Anyway, this is all preview geometry. If you want it, so if I want to sculpt on here, it's like, oh, I got plenty of geometry, let me sculpt. And you go in here and try to sculpt, it's like, why isn't it doing anything? First of all, because I have only RGB turned on from a standard brush, Z add-on. Second of all, this isn't real geometry. It's just fake geometry. So when I'm sculpting, I'm really sculpting on nothing or very little. But if I want to sculpt on this nice smooth geometry, hit dynamic apply, and now we have real subdivisions here that we can go up and down, and then we have, you know, instead of, if we undo that, we have dynamic here, right? You're going to see my active points, 696, doesn't change when I turn that on and off. It's always really 696 polygons. As soon as I hit apply, now I have 177,000 polygons to sculpt on. So let's say we want to ornament this up. I do have, if I hit my comma key alpha, I do have some got some Jonas Rosinus alphas in here that are cool. Usually what I do is in my brushes. I'll go to like ArtStation and I'll download, I don't know exactly go on ArtStation or go on Gumroad or go wherever and look for like, hey, ornamental alphas. I'll convert those alphas into geometry. So for example, here's a volume 1 of some alphas I bought off ArtStation. Converted them to geometry, and now I have a brush with geometry that is being converted on the fly to alphas. So instead of having like a standard brush with focal shift set to -100, go in here to alpha import, and then you import like 300 alphas, you can take those alphas and just convert them to a brush. You have very quick, easy access to them. You can see it's updating here. You can also hit M on your keyboard. You can go through here and you can select. So it's like, okay, which one do I want? This one. So we can select this one here. We'll hit Control D 2 more times so we get plenty of geometry. And then I can go through here. We'll turn X-symmetry off. And now we'll turn our Z intensity down. And now I can go through here and draw, you know, this very, subdivide one more time. We can draw this very ornate alpha on here. Now, you're noticing, and of course we can drop our Z intensity down. We can hold down Alt if you want it to like carve in to your object. It's also going through my object. Probably don't want that, right? So go in here to your brush menu and tell ZBrush, hey, auto masking, backface. And if you remember from when we first started, I have my backface key or my backface setting set to Alt F. So I can just toggle that on and off. I don't even need to be in here looking at it. I can just say, hey, is backface masking on for this? Obviously not. Let me turn it on. Boop. And this will give me a little visual reminder that it is indeed on. So now when I drag this out, it will ignore any faces it can't see, which are the ones on the back. So anyway, that's one way to do ornate alphas, or kind of go through and ornate this up. However, you're going to see I had to go to 11 million polygons just to get this to show up, right? Here's an alternative. Oh, and if you want to convert geometry, like I was saying, taking alphas and converting them, here is converting alphas to multi-alpha brushes. Multi-alpha brush from images. I got a couple in here, so I'll go ahead and copy this to y'all if you need it. Here. Now, alternative. So instead of going up to 11 million, maybe that's a bit rich for my blood. So I'm going to take this back down. We'll say delete higher. So for this one, we can go through here and we can sculpt and we can do whatever we need to, but have a nice smooth surface. But instead of using alphas, I'm going to use IMM brushes. So let's do that. I'm going to hit the comma key, go in here to brush, go to my ornamental, and you're going to see I have alpha brushes that is just like I showed you, and then I have IMM versions. So here's alphas, and then here's IMM versions of those. So if I go in here to alphas, ornamental, wait, 43 IMM. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use this one. So this is, and when I convert it to geometry, you can say, hey, convert this to geometry and then convert it to an alpha. This is just converted to geometry that I can drag out on my object. And it'll be a little bit more usable. So now I'm at 177,000. I have, you know, you can go through here and select these IMMs. They're essentially insert meshes. I can hit M on my keyboard, M as in Michael Pavlovich, and I can choose, you know, any one of these. Now there's a problem. I have subdivision history on here. You can't drag an IMM onto an object that has subdivision history. No problem. Usually what I like to do is append a little poly star into my subtool stack. So again, that was append. And if you're appending something that's already converted to a Make Polymesh 3D, so you can sculpt on it, you can append any primitive and it'll be in a sculptable state. You don't have to hit Make Polymesh 3D. The star is just always Polymesh 3D. There is no settings for it to be a primitive. Sorry if that doesn't make any sense to new ZBrush users, but watch the intro to ZBrush stuff. You'll get caught up. It's not rocket science. You just need to know a few little weird things. So we have a star in our scene, right? I'm going to hold down Shift, shoot it to the top, and then when I go to Tool Save As, that'll also catch the name of my object. I don't even need to have it on visible. I just got my tire, then I got my mud flap. When we want to use our IMM brush, because again, I can't use it. So again, we have our brush here. We have a cool ornate thing we want to put on here, and it's going to yell at us that we can't drag it on. You can go in here to select your star, and we can even turn on X symmetry. So, and we'll turn off transparency. So now, the star with X symmetry on, we can go through here, and we can drag on ornate stuff. However, you're going to see it's not following, you know, if I'm going to put ornate stuff on here, I don't want it to like, oops, we'll keep it on here. Oh, that's another thing. I do, so underneath brush, modifiers, there is a projection strength. By default, this won't be on. You know, you'll just drag something out and it's not going to project anything. It's just going to drag it out straight and it's just going to sit on the surface, which is okay if you're dragging it onto like a box and you put it on the side, you're good to go. You don't need to worry about projecting. However, you do want to have projection strength on if you want it to follow the curve of an object. However, you're going to see because I have this object selected, it's not, let's go ahead and turn off X symmetry. It's not going to follow the curve of the object. In fact, it's doing some really weird stuff trying to project back to this thing. So here's what you need to do in this particular case. I'm going to take this nice smooth object here. We're going to duplicate it off and we're going to say, in fact, we don't even need that much geometry. We'll drop it down to like subdivision level 4, say delete higher and delete lower. So now we have a copy of that object with no subdivision history. We have a brush. Oh, now my voice is going. I have a brush with projection strength on. So now when I drag out this object onto here, it will follow the curvature of the object. Now you don't have to follow it exactly. You can drop that projection strength down, but in this case we probably do. So I'm going to drag this out. It follows the curve of the object, and then I can go through here and we can just keep adding more and more ornate stuff. Sorry, I gotta stop talking for a second. Actually, just for this, because I knew it was gonna happen, I talked more in 2 days at ZBrush Summit than I think I have for the previous 5 years of my life. So I apologize, my voice is on the fritz. Sorry, no music, so I'm just gonna have to hum. Anyway, do your ornate stuff, Control Shift. Now, so I have my object here and then I have some ornate stuff stuck to it. You can hold down Control Shift and tap and that'll select the poly group. What I like to do is just grab a little chunk of this, do Control Shift A, which is visibility. I'll show you where it is. Visibility, grow all. That's awesome. That's really good functionality you should know. There's also grow to polygroups, which is also very useful. So for example, if I grab a little chunk of this thing and then do Control Shift A, that's visibility, grow all. If I grab a little piece of, let's say do a quick group by normals. Oh yeah, that's okay. So if I say, for example, Control Shift drag over this salmon colored polygroup and this teal colored polygroup here, and then do Control Shift Q, that is visibility, grow all for polygroup. So that's also pretty useful. But again, Control Shift A. If I don't to grow all, so now I have visibility for just this object. And then if I Control Shift drag, that'll invert visibility. And now I have my ornate stuff sitting in space. If you want to keep this around while it's hidden, you can go into your split menu and you can say split hidden. If you don't need it anymore, geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And now we have our object here that we can sculpt on. We have our ornate stuff that follows the curvature of the object, and we have our original tire. And that's the other thing too, is on this one in particular, if we take our undo history and we just go back to before we had subdivision history, you can just keep this dynamic. So, you know, we can do D to turn a dynamic on, Shift D to turn it off. And if you're like, I want to put on ornate stuff, but I want to keep this dynamic because it's nice to have this functionality in case I want to go out of this mode, and then go up here and say Alt drag. Let's go and turn X symmetry back on. Let's say Alt drag over these to select them, and then we'll Q mesh these out, and then we'll say again, Crease PG, hit D for dynamic, and we'll go through here and actually we'll say Crease Edge. We'll crease this and crease this. So we can go through here and we can kind of put in the creases where we want. I personally like to do this. I like to do a quick group by normals, just to give me, and then geometry modify topology mirror and weld, so I can see my polygroups visually, and then I can go through here and say, hey, you know what, all of this I want to have as the same polygroup. So I'm going to hold down Alt and then tap Shift to make these the same polygroup, and then I'm going to say uncrease all, crease PG, and now I'm really using my polygroups. As opposed to having to go through and crease with my Z modeler brush, I can just use polygroups. Sorry, that was fast, and I know people are going to be irritated at me at that, but that's okay. So use the modeler brush and polygroups and creasing to kind of have this, but again, all I get to do is hit Shift D and go back. So again, I can make it look smooth-ish, but if I want to go through here and say, hey, you know what, on this one I want to bridge, hover on this face, I'm going to say bridge, connected polys, circle, 100% curvature, resolution of 8, aligned to normal triangle sides. And boom, I can very quickly just go through here and make like these little caps. And again, I'm going to do a quick group by normals, mirror and weld, uncrease all, crease PG, and then make sure that, yeah, everything looks fine. If I want these rounded, if I do it right now and I say, you know, dynamic, it holds that edge. Yes, you can go through here and say, with your Z modeler brush, crease, edge, just hold down Alt and uncrease it. But again, if I'm in here, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Make that all one polygroup. Make this all one polygroup. Let's make that more obvious. There we go. And then again, uncrease all, crease PG, hit D for dynamic. And now it's nice and rounded like I like. Now, that is okay for having a nice Z modeler preview of our object here. However, if I was to try to duplicate this off with dynamic turned on, it's going to try to snap this ornamentation to this kind of really low res geometry. So in this case, what I would do is I would say, keep this one dynamic, duplicate it off, say dynamic apply, maybe drop it down 1, delete higher, delete lower, and use this as my proxy to drag on smooth ornamental things to match that shape. When I'm done using that as a proxy, delete it, and now I can have ornamental shapes following the curvature of my dynamic mesh, but I can still maintain that dynamic mesh. Does that make sense? Alpha and rectangle mask to create a rectangle preview you could precisely place over the mesh. Yeah, there's some really, speaking of, for example, we have a plane here, make polymesh 3D, subdivide it up, and then going in here. So if you hold down Control, let's go back into our brush alphas here. So we have, these are alphas. We can have this brush alpha. I think if I hit, sorry, I don't do this very often. Maybe it's this alpha menu here. We'll say, actually you could clone Modify? Nope. Create? Nope. Transfer? To mesh, from mesh, flat. Anyway, well, we have the brush alpha here. So if I want to use this, for example, let's just say WR transpose here, hit Q to, oops, not Q. So we have W, select, we have gizmo, hit Y to switch to transpose mode. And then with your transpose brush, actually, we might have to do transpose smart mask, huh? BT, switch your transpose brush to transpose smart mask, maybe? God, it's been so long since I've done this. Sorry. Oh, I probably shouldn't do this. Gosh, there is a way. Go on my YouTube channel. I'm gonna have to go watch my videos again. You can load in an alpha with transpose smart mask, or just drag out and then go and precisely place your masks. I just don't remember how to do it. W, transpose smart mask. Drag this out, but then if I want my brush alpha, and I don't even remember how to clone this damn thing. Mask. Because, I mean, you can just drag this mask out, but it's not constraining it proportionally. But you can, what was it, W, transpose smart mask. I swear. Man, this is going to bug me. Ah, it's okay. We'll skip it. Everybody edit that out of your brain. Pretend that I'm smart. Okay, so I'm getting rusty in ZBrush too, apparently. Me and you both, John. Perfect. Okay, so again, I lost my place. Sorry if I missed anything. Yes, UV Master. You can bring figures from Character Creator and edit in ZBrush. I mean, we can edit the animation in Character Creator. Yeah. Well, no. If you're editing animation, you want to use iClone if you're in their ecosystem. Actually, now that you mention it, yes. Let's see. Yes. Okay, I think I missed something. We can bring figures from Character Creator and edit in ZBrush. We can edit the animation Character Creator, such as creasing cloth and stuff. Yes. Well, cloth is a little bit different. Cloth is a little bit different because you can get dynamic. We can do it real quick if y'all want. Let's do something real fast. So we have motion, pose, a pose. And there's headshot, which we haven't talked about yet, but smash that like and subscribe. Wait, motion, pose, a pose. There we go. Let's go ahead and resync ZBrush back up. So, for example, oh, I didn't save this, did I? Okay, you know what? I do have undo history on this thing, so we're going to undo this back to where we fixed our ears. Okay, so at this point, you definitely want to go to File, Save As, and save a corresponding ZBrush file with your CC file. I'm going to go in here to Preferences, GoZ, Clear Cache Files. Okay. So for example, we're not doing ornamentation stuff anymore, so I think we're good. Sorry if like the whole mud guard and ornamentation, if that didn't answer your questions, just keep shouting out new ones. But so we have this file here, and we want to relink this file back with ZBrush. So we're going to go in here to, again, we cleared our cache file, so we're pretending like we're starting fresh. Notice when I was doing that UV stuff, let's do this, UV map. Okay, just making sure I have the right UVs. This did stay renamed, so I'm going to rename this back to just body. We don't want _1. So we're relinking. GoZ all. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around, so my brain's Trying to keep up. Update here, current, yes. So we're relinked. So now let's say we want to make a cloth object for this character. Here. So we're going to make an accessory essentially. So back in ZBrush. This base body, I'm going to duplicate it off. And I'm going to go through and we're going to just real quick slice curve in like the belt area. Oops. We'll say delete higher. Again, this is on the duplicate. We're not doing this to the base body. We want to keep that intact and do not change the vert order on that base body. That is what is giving us all the cool CC functionality. If you break that vert order, all that goes out the window. So we've sliced here. And you know what? If it's going to be a loincloth, I'll just slice out like a belt here. So we have polygroups. So we're going to solo mode here. We have a purple one. Control-Shift-Tap that purple one. Again, I like to do a quick polygroups auto groups. There we go. And then Control-Shift-Tap just the yellow part. And then Geometry Modify Topology Delete Hidden. X symmetry is turned on, so I can say zero mesh half. Adaptive size down to 0, so we get nice even quads. And now we have essentially a belt. I also like to do deformation, polish by features. Again, when I say deformation, if I don't say, usually if I'm like deformation polish by feature, 99% of what I'm doing is in the tool menu. So if I don't specify which menu I'm in, it's the tool menu. So tool menu, deformation, there's polish by features. Closed circle is going to maintain my volumes. Open circle is going to polish the hell out of my object. So again, polish by features, closed circle, tap, 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 tap. And that'll go ahead and smooth that out. And then again, when I zero mesh, it'll give me a nice low res geometry to zero mesh half, 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 get it down pretty low. And this will be the start of my loincloth. Or if you're making a belt, you got a good start on a belt, right? So BZM for your Z modeler brush, hover over a face, hit your space bar. We're going to Q mesh or extrude, doesn't really matter, polygroup all. We'll go ahead and pull this out. And now we've got a belt, but we want a loincloth. We want cloth swinging, right? So we're going to go down to the bottom here, hold down Alt, and we're going to pull this out. You can't extrude edges. It's funny, when I'm using Max Maya, Moto Blender, Cinema 4D, I tend to extrude edges a lot more. In ZBrush, I almost never extrude edges. So, for what it's worth. Now, and if you want to, you can go in your Z modeler brush and say like Insert, Multiple Edge Loops, Keep Group, and you can just go in here and add geometry. However, you can also use Z modeler. So I'm going to do another group by normals, Geometry Modify Topology, delete. Oop, we haven't deleted hidden yet. So I'm going to grab Control-Shift-Tap the blue, Geometry Modify Topology, delete hidden, zero mesh same. That'll go through in zero mesh. Actually, let's say zero mesh double. Yeah, a little higher res. Or you can say zero mesh same, hit Control D to subdivide that result, go up here, because I don't want subdivision history, and say delete lower. And if this is more what you're looking for, totally great. If it's not, again, you have options. So again, zero mesh double, or you don't even have to use same half double. You can just turn this off and just dial in a target polygon count. You want 17,000? It'll give you 17,000. But we'll do double because that seemed to work. So here is our loincloth. It is cloth. I do want it to be single-sided. I don't want to have to deal with double-sided cloth and verts interpenetrating each other, so I'm going to keep it single-sided, but we'll turn the material to double-sided. However, on the top here, I do want it to look like it's going into his body. So this is one of those rare instances in ZBrush. I'm going to hover over an edge, and I'm going to say extrude edge loop. Tap. You can extrude one, but then tap Alt. That'll go ahead and extrude in a whole loop, and there we go. And now we have geometry. Now in ZBrush, this is actually rendering double-sided. It's a little dangerous because you can not realize that normals are flipped if you're doing this. So if I go down here to display properties, turn double off, you'll see, oh, these are the back faces for my object here. Nothing really exists back there. So we have a loincloth. Let's go ahead and do just some real quick sculpting. So for example, hold down Shift. Here, let's hold down Shift. And so I have Smooth Stronger turned on. When I'm dealing with very low poly objects, I'm going to hold down Shift and turn down my Z intensity for my smooth. And then just like anything else, this is the mesh that I'll send over to Character Creator and be, what's the word? That will animate around and be bound to my body and will have dynamic cloth. However, I can bake out normals and such. So let's go ahead while I'm talking. I'm going to load up a Substance Painter. We'll do a really quick painter on here. So we have this. It's named CC base body. Let's go ahead and rename this. Loincloth high. And then let's go ahead and say, there's two ways we can do this. We can start subdividing and then UV it, or we can UV it now and then start subdividing. Let's go ahead and UV it now. So because I don't have subdivision history, I don't have to work on a clone. So Z plugin, UV master, symmetry, unwrap, flatten. Looks fine to me. Unflatten. Go as nuts as you want with your UVs, obviously. Good enough. So here we go. We have UVs on here. We can now just hit, let's switch back to whatever. That category is fine. Control D. So Control D to subdivide. We'll add subdivision history. Generally speaking, you probably don't want cloth to be symmetrical, but I'm powerful lazy, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep it symmetrical. We could turn off symmetry. That's fine. So here we have some cloth wrinkles. Now, these aren't going to be dynamic. These are going to be baked to a normal map. So I'm not going to put like cloth wrinkles down here necessarily, because this is going to be the cloth moving. But up here, the cloth is going to be bound to the body. So I feel safe to go through here and just start sculpting in some cloth. So now, we're sculpting in cloth. And again, you can use like BC cloth hook, BCK, I don't know, brush, cloth, hook, BCK. Yeah, so you can use cloth brushes to go through here and get cloth. As you can see, this is a very intense brush. However, if you remember, we do have a thick skin you can turn on, and this will limit the effect your brush will have on the surface. If you just barely pull this out, you can actually go through here and like pull the geometry across itself essentially, and it's kind of like it's sliding along a skin. So that's one way you can use it. What I tend to do is not have thick skin. So we'll subdivide one more time. Again, we're sculpting in here, cloth in here. I'll go into my pinch brush, and for any brush in ZBrush, you can say, there's elasticity in here. You can turn on simulation iterations. So while I'm pinching, it will actually simulate as cloth. There's limits to it. If you go in here to, for example, dynamics, there's all the settings you can change of what dynamic cloth settings you're using while you're pinching. And you see the firmness here, and there is a simulation points. We're below it, so we're fine. If you're ever not, you can just isolate with visibility, just Control Shift drag over a little section, and then that'll knock your points way down, and then you can feel safe to go in here and just kind of do this. So I can go through here and I can get a little cloth simulation going as I'm sculpting and simulating on a micro level, I suppose, on a brush level for wrinkles. Anyway, we have a loincloth here. We have loincloth high. Rename. Where OPP came from. Takes me back to the early 90s. So loincloth high. We'll go ahead and export this right on our desktop as loincloth high FBX. And you can't see this, but I'm going to say visible. Nope. Yeah, I'm going to say visible, smooth normals, but because I'm saying visible, I'm just going to have this one on. So hold down Shift, turn off the eyeball. That'll turn off visibility for everything, or vice versa. It'll turn everything on. And then again, export. Loincloth high FBX. I'm going to say visible, smooth normals, yes. So we're going to export our high res. And then we'll go ahead and say subdivision level 1, loincloth, rename. We'll call this loincloth low. Export. Low, visible, smooth normals, yes. Thank you. So now we go into Painter, File, New, select loincloth, streaming. Let me pull this down here. Oh, we're on the desktop, duh. Yes, so desktop, loincloth low. We'll say, you know, we'll go crazy. 2048 for this loincloth. It's going to be an awesome loincloth. We're not using UV tiles, so we're okay. Give it a sec to load that loincloth in, I would guess. There we go. So we want to bake off our normals that we sculpted. So texture setting, we're going to go down here to bake mesh maps. We're going to load in our high res here. Yes. 2048, high res. If you were baking out poly paint, then I would say change this to vertex color, but we're not. So I think we're okay. You can say common settings matched by mesh name. We only have 2 objects in here, so I don't need to worry about it. So now we'll get our sculpted detail. Oh, so see how that we got a little normal error on there? Go back to your bake mesh maps. See how our, go back to common settings here. This frontal distance, just crank that up. That'll change our cage, so the normals will shoot out far enough to not give us an error. There we go. Return to painting mode. Leather. Let's go in here. So this is just materials. This is just a fill material essentially, and then this is a smart material with all sorts of cool stuff. So here's a leather stylized we'll use. So we'll go back to layers. We'll drop in leather stylized. We've got a stylized leather on here. You can change these parameters however you'd like. You can add a fill layer on here. Let's go ahead and just do a quick paint layer. And we'll say add a black mask, and on this black mask we'll say add a paint. Let's go in here to our brush. Let's say basic hard. Let's go in here and say paint for our textures, and we can put a big old handprint here. So we'll scale this up, and we'll say we're of the Hand Clan or the Smack Loincloth Clan, and now we have a loincloth with textures. File, export textures. I'm going to drop all this stuff right onto my desktop because I'm messy. This we'll just choose plain old metallic roughness. I have a metallic roughness AO. You probably won't, so you can just use metallic roughness here. Yeah, we'll just do that. Metallic roughness, you have that. We'll go ahead and say PNG, why not? We'll say 2048. Yeah, we're good. So we'll go ahead and say export. Save settings. Go back to character creator. Let's go in here to create accessory. Now, when we create an accessory, we can convert it to a cloth object where we can transfer skin weights from our body to our object. We can create an accessory, which is like a helmet or a club that, you know, is bound to just one joint, or parented or parent constrained to one joint. Or we can have facial, we can convert it to facial stuff that where when the blend shapes move, like a mustache will move along with it. This is going to be cloth, so I'm going to go to my desktop, and we're going to, here, show it to you. Loincloth low, it'll import this as an accessory first, so we can hit W, just for ease of use. I'm going to scroll down here and say, center that pivot. Here we go. And the cool thing about Character Creator, for any character artists out there that do this kind of thing, see how it's kind of poking through the body? We can totally fix that. It has really good tools for that. So we have our accessory in here. Let's go ahead and make it look prettier. Not that pretty, because you saw how fast we did that, but we'll go in here to PBR. We'll go in here to base color, and we'll say desktop loincloth. So there's our base color. Here's our bump. Ah, I knew you were going to do that. Let's go in here, base color. Okay, that's fine. We'll just hit desktop. Bump. Desktop. Normal. Switch it to normal. And if your normals look weird, go down here and say flip Y, and that'll flip it to your OpenGL. AO, we don't have, honestly, metallic and roughness. You can, if you did some specific roughness, which I guess we did, you can go in here and you can say, yeah, grab my roughness map. For the metallic, I don't need to bring in the metallic. It's fine. It's just not metal, so just keep it black. Everything else is fine. So we have a loincloth here. However, this loincloth is just an accessory, so it's bound to his hips. Yeah, it's bound to his hips, so it'll just walk around. So we're going to convert this to we're going to transfer the weights and convert this to a cloth object, essentially. So with this selected, here, this loincloth selected, we're going to say transfer skin weights. And we're going to use the dress template. You can use default or gloves or shoes, depending on the object type. And that's going to transfer the body weights to my object. So that's part one. So if we go in here and we say motion, male, walk. He'll walk around, but now his loincloth is stuck to his legs. Not what we want. We want that to be dynamic, right? So motion, pose, a pose. So there's one more thing we got to do. We need to apply a weight map because we want these verts up here to be weighted to his body. Oh, and we have penetration issues. So loincloth, this is the best part. go into conform, and it'll look, and you can say, hey, calculate my collision, and it'll go, boop, oh yeah, you're having a little penetration issue, no problem, boop, you're good. So even if you had other objects in here, you can do, if you have like boots, pants, underwear, shirt, coat, you can have them on different layers, and it'll go through and conform based on the layer that it's assigned to and get rid of all those interpenetration issues for you. So very nice. And then back here in ZBrush, we need a weight map. So we have our object here. And like I said, these verts, mask lasso, come on. These verts, am I crazy? Oh, I changed that. That's my fault. So yes, I am crazy. So I'm going to control drag over here and then control tap to invert this. So these up here, I want to be weighted to the body. So I'm going to take a black color and say color fill object. Those will be weighted to the body. Or you can say, you know, go into your standard brush with RGB on and then just paint, you know, where you want this to be. And while we're masked here, again, you can hold down control and tap and that'll blur that out. And then again, just fill that. So however you want to do it. And I'm just going to go through here. So this will all be weighted to the body, and then this will be dynamic. So in order to get this out of here, let's go in here to, and also just to make sure, okay, the handprint. I'm just going to look real quick because ZBrush flips things sometimes. So I'm going to say 2D. Okay, so it is upside down. So when I'm in ZBrush, I want to make sure that when I say texture map, new from Polypaint, there it is. I'm going to clone this off, say texture, flip vertically, export, desktop. We'll go ahead and call it PNG. Oh, one more thing I want to do. Under UV map, crank up your UV map border to get a nice bleed around that, and then say new from Polypaint. Again, that'll give us a little extra bleed. Again, clone texture, texture, flip vertically, export. We'll make it a PNG. Loincloth weight map. So now when I'm back in Character Creator, we can go into the loincloth. We have physics already activated. Nope. These two we need to activate. So select your character, and we're going to turn on soft and hard rigid physics. Soft is for the cloth, rigid is for the capsules, which we'll talk about in a second. So, okay, now that we have those activated, loincloth. Physics, activate physics for the loincloth. We're going to open up that weight map here, just double click it. And I guess we'll leave this up here, sorry. Desktop, here's our weight map, hurrah. And then, so we'll go ahead and show this. So we'll say motion, male, walk. There you go. So now this is going to be not stuck to his legs anymore, but more of a dynamic flow. Which is it? Or do I need to flip it around? Not quite as dynamic as I'm used to, but you're seeing it's penetrating his legs. So motion, pose, A pose. Let's go ahead and fix those capsules. We'll select our body, our character again. And this is where we can go in here to collision shape. We don't need all of these capsules, so I'm going to say deactivate the head and the neck and shoulders and chest and upper arms and lower arms. We just have, all I really care about is like maybe the pelvis and maybe the upper thighs. So we can turn all this stuff off. So, okay, so then the capsules here, we need to go through and make sure that at the very least, wherever that leg is, we have a capsule. Because again, the loincloth geometry isn't just, it isn't going to collide with the actual geometry of the leg because it would be very expensive. It's going to collide with this very cheap capsule shape, but it'll look like it's hitting his leg. Same thing for this leg here. And again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, so feel free. And you can add more capsules if you want. It's up to you. All you got to do is hit this little plus sign here, and there's multiple capsules you can bring in to get more finesse out of your capsules here. So we move these around. So hopefully when his legs move now, this thing will follow. I'm also not totally convinced that we have our weight map applied appropriately. I mean, I guess it's working. So now you can see dynamic cloth. What else was we gonna do? Motion, pose, a pose, cloth. Oh, here's the other thing too. If we go in here to custom content, for example, I've saved out, when you're working in here and you have your goblin, all you got to do is select the helmet and say, hey, save this as an accessory in my custom folder, save the horns as an accessory. So all I have to do if I want to put a helmet on them is I can double click. It'll go ahead and put the helmet into place from my goblin, and it's fine. I can go into, for example, so these are accessories. So let's go ahead and load up that big old troll jawbone here. It's already bound to his hand. And you know what? Let's bind it to his other hand. Let's hit W. I'm going to scooch this over. Super easy to do. And we'll rotate a little bit. So we'll fit it into his right hand. But now we need to tell it, hey, stick this in his, or bind, parent constrain it to the, there we go. Parent constrain this to his other hand. So that's when we go down here and we say, hey, you pick parent. Oops, got his thumb. No problem. I'm just going to follow this. We want the right hand. There we go. So now we've got this, and then any other stuff I have on here. So underneath cloth, I think we had like, what's a cool thing we could bring in? Maybe a little pair of boots. Yeah, his little goblin boots, or he's got goblin gloves. Pants, let's throw some pants on him. There we go. So here's pants that cover up the loincloth. All we got to do, oh, that replaces loincloth. That's fine. So now we've changed our character a bit. Motion, male walk here. You can go ahead and walk. And then he's got a one-handed weapon, so we can actually go into content here, animation, motion. Oh, we need to go to template. Sorry. Animation, motion. We got some mocap here. We'll do single-handed combat. He's got a axe, a blade. Well, he'll treat this like, oh, select the character here, and then load this up. I don't know where the hell he got moved out into space. Edit. Preferences. I need to see. Show grid. There he is. So let's move him back. W. There we go. Sorry about that. F to frame. So now we'll have our big goofy goblin character doing his his whatever he's doing. Let's go ahead and say, oh boy, that's a long one. Yeah, that moved the whole thing back, didn't it? Okay, give me a second. Let's put this back. I want this to be right here in the middle. F to frame. Sorry about that. So now, play it. Yes. Do your sound effects. And now he's in his idle. Cool beans. And we're up on 8 o'clock. Didn't do any of the things I started to do, but hopefully this was helpful since I was answering questions, so maybe that'll be better. Yeah, I do know what you're referring to. The Scroll Reaper, I forget the set. I forget the steps I have to go to do that, so sorry about that. Alphas I got were from, like, I think ArtStation. Just ornamental alphas. Thank you. Too short. Yeah. Hey, Chris. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think at this point I've forgotten more ZBrush functionality than I remember. My brain. I'm a little scattered. I'm a little stretched thin. Using Redshift and ZBrush for product renders. Not in ZBrush. I don't, weirdly, I didn't cover the functionality because the ZBrush does have built-in redshift functionality. However, I do have a playlist on ZBrush and Cinema 4D. So if you can use GoZ to have that workflow. So here's a whole playlist on doing, and all sorts of cool stuff. They have physics, like foam rendering with physics. So like I think I did some pretty cool stuff. You may not think as much, but yeah, you can check that out for that. Cool. Substance Painter is optimal for baking maps. In this case, yes. A lot of people like Marmoset because you can go through and you can paint skew maps and paint your cage distance and stuff. And like there's a lot of good bakers out there. But usually if I need to do something very precise, I'll do Marmoset. But if I'm just doing like, you know, 1-to-1 without a whole lot of issues, then Painter's totally fine. For me. Your mileage may vary. Most difficult thing is CC getting the hands right, not just polygons to make the right shapes and not hand morphs available to change the finger shape. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if the fidelity and the geometry isn't quite there, you may be kind of limited. And also on the ears, if you're doing like really crazy ears, you're gonna run out of geo at some point, and you're gonna kind of really hit the limitation. So you're right, it's not a cure-all for everything, but boy, does it have some cool stuff in it, right? This cloth was done in ZBrush, but you don't have to. In fact, one more thing before I head out, let's go ahead and take these pants off. And I do have some other content. So again, motion, pose, a pose. So my custom here under skirts, I have the troll loincloth that goes to my troll character, and I have my original goblin loincloth here. So depending, and I think they both have weight maps plugged in. So if I turn this one off, here's the troll one. Motion. Let's put on a walk so we can see. There we go. So yeah, there's the troll loincloth that we made. Looks like there's some weight issues back here that those, I don't know, I need to go fix that. But anyway, you get the idea. You understand. Yeah, so thanks everybody. Sorry it was kind of a weird scattered stream, but hopefully with those questions being answered and again those resources, just in case you're stumbling around like I tend to do. Here's my, well, that's my playlist. Yeah, there's my playlist. So I'll go ahead and link you there. And then this one too, if you want to go back to other live streams, you can look at the images here and go like, hey, what is this? Oh, scan data cleanup. I like that. I always wanted to make a Salacious Crumb or a Ninja Turtle. If you just click on here, or a Garbage Pail Kid, you can go through here and all of the live streams will be linked in here. You know, so you can just have ease of use, I suppose. And then also, like I said, intro to ZBrush, and then more, you know, ZBrush What's New all the way back to 4R8 should be in there. So check those out if it's helpful. If it's not, don't bother. No big deal. Cool. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to try to stream on, so this was on Pixelogic's channel. I'm going to try to stream on my channel on Thursday. If I can wake up, I will definitely do that. So cool. Thanks, everybody. And have a good rest of your week, please.